Welcome to Wedding Waffle, a very chatty podcast with three industry professionals covering all things wedding, including your dilemmas, shocking stats, and just general wedding chit-chat. Get cosy and join us as we discuss anything and everything to do with weddings. Absolutely nothing is off limits. Brought to you by Bouquet and Bells, together with Flowers at the Dutch Barn and the Red Rose Cake Company. Welcome to episode 5 of Wedding Waffle. I am Claire from Bouquet and Bells, you should now know me, and I am with Caroline from Flowers at the Dutch Barn.
Hello.
And Julie from the Red Rose Cake Company.
Hello.
So, let's just get straight into it. Do you think the wedding planning duties should be shared equally between the couple? Julie?
In a perfect world, yes. I think they should. And I think, well, when I speak to couples, they actually are both quite interested and they've participated and there's lots of discussion. So I think the big things they are very keen to equally share on that. So like the venue or the photographer or the cake. And the grooms are very positive about cake tasting and they can be involved in design. I think perhaps the finer points, it tends to be the bride or one person takes more responsibility for that. So I think probably one person is better at finishing touches and perhaps they take the lead on that. But I still like to think that people share that process.
What do you think?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that, to be honest. I think you're right. I think some people are more orientated towards the food and some are more towards the finer details. I have a lot with flowers. I always say, so going with a bride and groom, for example, is where I tend to have it a lot, is that the groom sometimes comes and I'm like, oh, well done for coming, because not a lot of men are interested in flowers, but women tend to be, and I'm not trying to be controversial with that, it's just how it seems to pan out. And I'm always like, well done, and then only sat there falling asleep because it's not their thing. But I have a lot of mums come to that, so I think it's more of a girly thing, isn't it? But yeah, I think a lot of people do tend to share them. I'd like to think so. I know we did, but there are certain aspects that I've taken over and Carl hasn't. I was going to say has, but he hasn't. He hasn't.
But things that he's taken over that you've taken a back seat on.
So, for example, with our wedding insurance, he's taken over that. So he's taken over the fight.
The least fun
bit. But when it came to the venue, we kind of decided on them together. And then when we actually got there, Carl actually took the reins on it because I was like, oh, this is nice. I had one set in my head and it was the last one we were going to see because I'd seen, this was quite funny actually, seen it on social media and the website looked great. Got there and my heart sunk. It wasn't right. It was just not what it was made out to be. And that's where, all these online things that's not always what it is it? But with the venue, he did. He got his spreadsheet and we compared pricing and stuff. So in some aspects, yes, but other aspects, no. Food, he took over. Cake, he was in charge of cake. He was in charge of the cake. I said, you decide on cake. And now he's got loads of ideas and I'm quite happy with whatever he chooses. But so some things.
Because I think traditionally it was always the parents of the bride or groom that organised the entire wedding, and it's only really the what do you call it? Not future generations, but the now generations. It's changed, and suddenly bride and groom or bride and groom have control of their day, and there's something quite fun with that because I think a lot of people now embrace it, but I always think there's one person in a couple that is more hands-on with planning, and whether that is because they are the more organised of the two or whatever it may be, I don't know. But with me personally, it was John loved the cake tasting and all that element to it, and the food and drink night that we had at the venue prior to the wedding, and he loved all that. But really it was actually my mum that took the reins on the nitty gritty, the budget.
That's interesting.
She handled everything and she was the one that contacted all the suppliers. She kind of took the reins on that, so really, I mean, we had an easy job, to be honest.
How did you feel? Because at the time you were a wedding planner. So how did you feel about that?
Yeah, so I obviously had input in the suppliers that we selected for our wedding was very much based on my experience of working with people in the industry and what I already knew, and I was very fortunate to get some quite good discounts because of that as well, so that saved us, but really once those suppliers had been chosen, she kind of took the reins. So
that's quite interesting, because I always pretty much I always it's normally the bride for me, I always have that input, and sometimes you have a mum's input, but not constantly speaking to the mum or the dad or whoever. That's really interesting, actually.
I think she felt more comfortable with it, to be honest, with her handling, because they were very involved, and we were lucky that they financially covered John's parents and my parents, just split the wedding down the middle and each covered it themselves, so we were very fortunate. But I think for that reason they felt like they had to be in more control, because you know how it is, everything gets lost and there's so much going on, isn't there, with deposits and everything else. So there was all that to take into account as well, but it made my life easier, because I just sat back and relaxed and just enjoyed it while she did all the horrible.
See, I don't think I could.
No,
I don't think I could take. No, like my dad basically said, "Here's some money, spend it how you want." Because I was very much like, my dress. I was very much like, I grew up with my dad, and I was like, is my dad going to go dress shopping? I was like, so I've paid for my dress, but we put the money that my dad gave towards the venue. It just went into a pot, rather than going, I'm paying for your dress, or I'm paying for the rings, or what have you. So we've just kind of put it into a pot. But apart from him choosing the venue with us, but it was more his reaction. He would have gone with any, but he was like, that's my favourite. Right. But that was really important to get that opinion.
Yes.
And we went with Carl's mum for food tasting. But otherwise, no, I don't think we could see them being like, I don't think I could let go. I'm a control freak. That's quite interesting.
Yeah.
It's become like counselling in here, hasn't it, Caroline?
I need some serious counselling. I need some help over here. Give me wine.
I agree. I don't think I could let go of the reins. I don't think I would have been able to let somebody else make those decisions. Paul was pretty laid back. It was a small wedding, so it was easy to make those decisions, but we both chose certain things. So we went and looked at several venues, and we chose the one that we both liked. And I see quite a mixed amount. I rarely see one of the wedding couple rather than both of them. They usually come together. I do see the parents occasionally, so occasionally it's a mother of the bride who's in touch, but generally it's both of them, and sometimes it's the groom that takes the lead. So it's very variable, and I think with a cake it's different. You're talking about food, something you're going to eat, everybody loves it, and so they want to participate in it, and it doesn't matter how my wedding couple is made up of. I find there's often a contribution from both of them.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we did a poll on this.
Perfect.
We love our polls. We said, do you think the wedding planning duties should be shared equally between the couple? 52% said defo, and 48% not fussed.
Quite even split.
Yeah. That was quite high, I thought, 52% to be shared equally, because I think when you cover what goes on for your wedding planning, the amount of work and everything that comes with it, naturally, it's quite a big task, so it's hard to share it equally.
Well done for them for doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think sometimes though, when you look at, say, accommodation for people to stay in, if you're not sort of immediately nearby, that's quite a good one to kind of do together, because my family's coming from here and my friends are coming from here, and that's quite an easy one to share and go, well, actually, can you tell your uncle Steve or whoever to book this accommodation? I'm not doing it because I don't know him, and that's where it would kind of split, I think. Those sort of things. That's quite interesting.
There we go. Yes. So moving on, do you think people feel pressure to have close family members as bridesmaids, Caroline?
I think some people do. I'm not very opinionated on this one for once. I haven't got any sisters. I've now got a sister-in-law and I've got a niece. My sister-in-law and I are good friends, but I wasn't her bridesmaid. I'm not going to ask her to be mine, but I will ask my niece, but she's only little at the moment.
Is she more like a flower girl? Or?
I will ask her to be a flower girl. I'm not asked yet, she's only 6 months. But it's kind of like, I will do, and I will ask. But yeah, not too opinionated on that one.
No.
No, I don't really have a view on it. I think the people that matter. So if you've got friends that have been with you all your life, and it's, you know, those are the ones that have stuck by you, and you've gone through different things with them, then those are the natural people you'd go to. If you've got a sister that you're really, really close with, and you're close in age and sharing and things like that, that's the person you're naturally going to turn to. So I think it depends on your personal circumstances and your relationships.
Yeah, and I can see some people feeling pressure if they've got, I don't know, 2 sisters, the groom's got, or whoever, their other half's got 2
that
sisters.
must be hard.
And there probably is that pressure, even if it could be from the parents saying, well, so-and-so best be bridesmaid, you best make your sister bridesmaid, or, you know, and I think sometimes you see these weddings when they've got like 12 bridesmaids, and I'm thinking, how much does that cost, first of all, to have?
And do you need it? I mean, I'm all for a bride tribe, but that's excessive.
But I think you're right, your close personal friends, family, well, keep it simple.
If you go back to what's the purpose of the bridesmaid, well, they were there to support and to be there and have your back on the morning.
Yes.
So do you want somebody that you don't really know or you don't have a great relationship with?
Can you imagine 12, 13 people running around a house?
Oh, I've seen it. I have seen it. Because obviously I drop off flowers at the house.
Yes.
And it is chaos.
Yeah.
And the brides, they're like overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And there's always, it ends up being quite cliquey, and there's a group because not everybody knows each other.
Yes,
I'd say what I found the average is about 6.
Oh, really?
Yeah, from looking at bridesmaids bouquets, and then you tend to have about 1 or 2 flower girls.
Yeah.
Not as many page boys. But yeah, it tends to be quite a few, between like 8 and 4 for definite.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting because I say I'm not very opinionated, but I probably am. So Carl came to me and said, "Do I need to ask your brother to be an usher?" I said, "Well, that's your choice. They get on, but they don't go to the pub drinking together, and they're not matey, but they get on really well." And I said to my brother, I said, "Do you want to be an..." "I don't want to be." He said, "I want to go to a wedding and enjoy it."
Yeah.
He was like, "No, it's fine, thank you very much." And I was like, "We need to give him a job." And Carl went, "Doesn't want a job, so leave it there, Caroline."
Yeah.
And I felt I had to because we're really close, but actually he would rather just enjoy it.
Yeah, you see, you're looking at someone like the best man, there is quite a responsibility with
It's
being
huge.
that involved, and you've got to do a speech and you've got to do all sorts on the day.
Make sure they get there.
Make sure they get there, make sure they've got the rings, and there's all sorts that comes with it, and perhaps that's
There's
quite...
more on the best man than anybody else, I would say, because I think, like I said, they have to get them there, and there's a lot on that pressure, isn't there?
Yeah.
And I think
It's not an enjoyable time, is it?
No.
I mean, there is happiness in it, but like you say, there's so many responsibilities, keeping an eye that everything is going to tick. If there's any problems, how are you managing it? And shielding your couple from what may be happening elsewhere.
But as I say with the women, I think we just enjoy just getting ready together. That's what it is, isn't it? And I think we're a bit more controlling.
Yeah.
We know what we're doing. A lot of women organise it. They know what's going on. Whereas the best man has to do a lot of work. Yeah. Poor guys.
It's true, actually. Yeah, maybe I've got the shorter end of the stick. So, do you think wedding gifts? Now talking about, do you think wedding gifts? Gift lists are a thing of the past, and is it rude to ask your guests for money? Julie, what are your thoughts?
I don't think it is these days. When it used to, the whole idea of people, a guest list was to buy things for your new home. These days a lot more people have lived together, share a home already, and so they've invested in all that. So perhaps, I know one of my couples, they'd already got their home and they asked for money and they invested it in a pedigree dog that they really wanted.
That's really cute.
But they'd really wanted this dog, and it paid for the insurances and everything.
And they to their family.
Yes, that's how
I like that. I'm a big dog lover.
Yeah, so I don't think it's rude. I think it's difficult as a guest to know what to give.
Yes.
Because if you're giving a gift, then you've got something in mind, or you've chosen something off a list. It's a very easy option, isn't it? So I think it's quite hard if you're asked to give money. If you're broke and haven't got any. you know, you can always put it on a credit card, but you can't put money on a credit card.
No.
So I think it's got swings and roundabouts. I think there's benefits. I'm not tied to one side or the other.
Yeah. I was just thinking about it. You just thingied in my head. I went to a wedding 2019 and they'd done a John Lewis gift list.
Right.
And they had things from a doorstop to a sofa, but you could contribute to the sofa. But I didn't want to buy a doorstop because I don't want to buy someone a doorstop for their wedding because it's a doorstop, beautiful doorstop. But I didn't want. So in the end, I ended up putting some cash in a card. But then I felt that wasn't enough. It was really difficult
This is
to
the
know.
thing. If someone's asking for money or to contribute towards a gift list, it's how much do you give, and it's a little bit of awkwardness there because it's going to be very clear to the bride and groom or whoever that
if you stick a £5, you're a cheapskate.
Yeah, exactly.
What is the average? Because me and Carl had this conversation. Our friends got married a couple of years ago. Carl was an usher, I was a bridesmaid, so we're both key people. And I was like, well, do we do it as a couple amount? And we ended up saying, well, if you're a main wedding party member, is it £50 or what? But then there was two of us. So in the end, we ended up doing £100 because we didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
That seems a lot.
It seems a lot. But then they took us out for a meal saying, thank you for all that help. So we paid for our own meal. And it was lovely, but they put it towards their honeymoon. But it's this thing of, is £20, because you don't get much for £20 anymore. So where is the line?
I know.
That would be interesting. That's a poll for you, Claire.
Did you do a poll?
No.
What did you do for your wedding?
We asked for money to put towards our honeymoon.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you feel like people were cheapskates if they didn't put a lot in an envelope?
Not at all.
No.
We were just grateful for any amount we could get.
That's
And
interesting, yeah.
actually my closest friends, rather than put in towards the honeymoon, because they felt like obviously everyone was going to do that, and they felt like we should have something to keep as well, so they did more. They gifted more personal touches, like photographs, and they gave me a antique horseshoe as like a good look, you know, which is in the lounge. And that was really nice actually, to have something physical when the rest was all just, I mean, honeymoon's been and gone, so do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for us, because we'd got the house and we'd lucky enough to have everything already, we felt like a gift list would just be a bit of a waste, and we really wanted to go travelling and have a great honeymoon. So yeah,
it's a hard one, isn't it?
yeah.
It sounds like
Needs
another
to do a
poll.
poll. Yeah.
Another poll. So, okay, what are your thoughts now on taking the surname of your partner? Is this a tradition that you like, or do you think it's time to move on? Caroline, what do you think?
I quite like it.
Yeah.
I like my surname. I think it's funny. But I also like Carl's quite equally.
What's Carl's surname?
Thurtell, which is really
Thurtell.
Thurtell.
And you're Boffy.
Boffy.
Yeah.
But everyone at school called me Boff. That was what I grew up. My dad did, my brother did, we all were Boff. And even friends from school still call me Boff.
Yeah.
But I like it. Caroline Boffy goes. Caroline Thurtell goes.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't fuss me. I'm going to take his name. It doesn't bother me either
Are
way.
you sad to leave your maiden
A
name?
little bit,
Yeah.
because my name rolls well with it,
Yeah.
and I'm used to it. But I'm not bothered either way. I'd rather take his name, because, I just feel we're a family. That's my thoughts.
What about you, Julie?
It's quite funny because my maiden name is Julie Rose, so my initials were JR,
I didn't know.
and I've ended up with being Julie Rickson, so I'm back with the same initials.
Yeah.
And I quite like being Mrs. Rickson. I enjoy being Mrs. Rickson.
Yeah.
I like it when my husband says, "This is my wife,
Yeah.
Julie Rickson."
See, that's the bit that scares me more, is the Mrs.
Mrs.
That feels old. No offence, but
Well, I've been
Mrs.
married before, and when I married, I had moved overseas, so I went from being Staff Nurse Rose, which was my my original title,
Sounds sexy.
and suddenly I
it?
became
Yeah.
Sister Kisley. And I quite often just
Sister what?
Kisley. My surname is Kisley. It's a Hungarian name.
That's unusual.
And it had SZ in it, which I couldn't even spell. So I couldn't even spell my own surname. And when I got married overseas, so when family sent wedding cards and things, of course it was all spelt wrong. And my husband was like, "Can't even spell your name." oh, well, how do you spell it then? But I changed from being staff nurse Rose. I remember that sort of was the most. I changed from being staff nurse Rose to Sister Kisley. So when people shouted me, I just ignored them because I just didn't recognise that at all. My title had changed and my name, and it completely passed me by.
Yeah.
But over years I've kind of got used to it, and I like being and that's why my company's Red Rose, because I added my maiden name
I thought
into
that's a
it.
coincidence.
Yes, no, there is some thought there.
There's logic.
But I quite like it. However, when you work in law, as with some other employment types, predominantly women retain their maiden name and don't use their married name in the legal setting, so they're always Miss and their maiden name, even if they're married. Very rarely do they use their married name.
Yeah,
It's a traditional thing. So.
Yeah. I'm all for taking the surname. I think it's a really nice commitment to your other half. It's traditional. I think we may see it go. It may not be a thing anymore because I think the more modern way is to double barrel.
Yes.
Or just not take your partner's name, where there's no right or wrong. But I think that what an amazing gesture to have. I feel it's quite an honour. I feel like it's really nice to share John's name, and he's Boone. Boone, and when I first met him I thought it was Boom. John Boom.
So would you take it if it was a really awful surname?
This is the thing.
I would.
Wouldn't.
I would. I think I would. Because of the reasons Claire's just pointed out, I think I would. And to be fair, it can't get much worse than Boffle. Even though I do love it, because there's not many. But yeah,
I think you see past it.
Yeah.
Maybe. What do you think? Would you? If it was...
No. I'm superficial.
I wouldn't.
If my surname was Dick, no, I wouldn't use it. Julie Dick. No, it's not going to happen. I feel probably quite so strongly about that as you. So this is controversy here. But yes. I know somebody. I went to school with somebody called Andy Dick. You know, I couldn't possibly have
my mum
married
and dad
him.
have friends and they call them the Dicks.
There you go. No, it's not going to happen.
Yes, they do. That's so... Oh, God.
No offence if anyone's surname.
Yeah, I'm not offended by anything. I'm not being offensive. I'm just not going to use that name.
No offence to anyone with a...
I'm not so sure on double barrel though. I think it's
really
because
common.
It's really common, but they've got to go together. Whereas like Buffy Thirtell doesn't go. Don't bother. It just doesn't go for me. So I wouldn't, because it doesn't go.
No.
So that's my superficial.
Sorry.
Go on. I was going to say it only doesn't go because you don't know it, because you've never heard of it, never used it, and that's the thing with names, isn't it?
Yeah.
I knew nothing more than my name when I was growing up. So, I mean, my mum's Scottish predominantly, but she doesn't say Julie. She says she says it with an accent. It's Julie.
Julie.
And so you only know that name. You only recognise it as that name. Whereas as an adult, most people call me Jules. I'm very often referred to.
Yeah, yeah. But I think the only kind of negative that I've found personally with taking partner's name is having to change your name on everything. It was trips to the bank, it was trips to the post office, and it was a right faff, and that was a pain. But I guess you could say, well, when it's done, it's done. You know.
But also, wouldn't you have to change it anyway because you would have become a Mrs. So you'd be Mrs. Claire.
Maybe. I don't
Mrs.
know,
Claire.
actually.
Mrs. Claire.
Hello, Mrs. Claire.
Would you? Do you just
It's a legal requirement. So I had my passport. I had inadvertently, I mean, quite an important document, but I just had never changed it. So my driving licence had been changed a bit, but my passport hadn't, and I got caught at the airport. So I had what they had to do was change it back to my maiden name, but then I had no documentation with my maiden name.
Was it because your flight name was in your married name, your passport was in...
It's in my maiden name. And so that caused a bit of a hoo-ha. But it is. Somebody recommended to me that you know when you buy a house, you get a pack. Usually the mortgage lender gives you a pack with all the things where you need to change your address. And somebody said to me, follow that same principle when you change your name, which is quite a good idea.
Yeah.
Have that list, because those are probably the most important things you need to address.
Yes.
So I did, but of course I didn't do that in my real life. I omitted to do it on important documents like your passport.
Yeah.
It might be worth finding a list though. You might have one on your website, Claire.
Yeah.
Did you do a poll?
Oh, I did.
Even better.
I did do a poll. What are your thoughts on taking the surname of your partner? 81% said they love the tradition.
Excellent.
19% it's time to change.
Oh.
So
No. Well, I get it. I get it. But I'm glad that some traditions stay.
Yes.
What if it was the other way around though? Do you think, take for example a bride and a groom, do you think a groom would take a bride's name?
Well, I have my godson. He married his partner, and she had 2 children, and he took their name, so that they all have the family all have the same name. So his wife's maiden name, the children have, and they all now have that name. So he changed his surname to be with
Match. See,
Yeah.
that's what I like. I like it's so
Yeah.
with children, you've all got the same, and
yeah, I like that. And you just feel like a little
Yeah.
family.
Because it's like with Ewok, that's my dog. At the kennels, he's Ewok Boffy, but actually he's actually Ewok Fertile. Because there's so many Ewoks out there, isn't there? But it was Carl's name that adopted him when we got him from the Dogs Trust. But at the kennels, it's Boffy, and I was like, Ewok Fertile. We always put him under Carl's name.
Sounds very posh.
It does, doesn't it? Hello, Ewok Fertile. But yeah, so even down to the pets. But it does impact things like the vets. It always comes to me, but it's under Carl's name, yeah.
Bob's always Bob Boone.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Bobby
Because that's his name.
Dog.
Dog.
No, she isn't. She's Millie Wixon.
Oh,
See?
that sounds
Yeah.
really nice, doesn't it?
It's cute.
Yeah.
And when you
So,
sit there with the vets, they call Millie Wixon. I don't know who's that.
Oh gosh.
Puts a paw up.
Yeah. Right, so that rounds off episode 5. So thank you so much for listening, and we will see you on the next episode. Bye.
Ta-ta.
Bye.